Hello, fellow sojourners. In this video, I'm going to talk about what to expect from your Kundalini activation or the dark night of the soul. And I'm just kind of freewheeling it, so bear with me. I don't have anything prepared. So prior to this experience happening to us, the scope of what we could see and experience was so limited. It's like we had been walking around with blinders on, and now the blinders are ripped off. We had been seeing everything through a filter of illusion. All the conditioning, all the programming that we had been through all our lives, all our experiences, all the trauma. So I'll just cut to the chase that what this is all about, why we go through this experience, is to wake up. We get unplugged from the construct being what we thought was real. So this is why it's such a mind-blowing experience. And those of us that know about the Kundalini, which is really the best explanation we have for the energy that starts moving around in us, it has a major impact on our nervous system. And our nervous system is connected to our brain, right? So this opens Pandora's box, and we see everything through a new lens. And now that we no longer are looking through this filter, it can be a very disturbing experience, and for most of us, it is. And we find that we're no longer interested in the things of the illusion, or everything that has been programmed and conditioned. So this process basically damages our nervous system. The impact on the nervous system, I think many of you know, is pretty intense. And based on how much corruption there is in our nervous system will kind of dictate the experience that we're going to have. So part of this is the ability to see the shadow, the darkness, all the ugliness of everything around us and ourselves. And it's really important to not take it personally. You are not a horrible person, but we feel like we're a horrible person because now we see ourselves so clearly. But it's not really yours. It's a product of the construct. It's a product of what we've been carrying around from other lifetimes. And even though it's a painful process, you're on your way to getting off of the evolutionary wheel and being on the loop of repeating cycles over and over. So when you're in the dark phase of this process, try your best not to get stuck there and not to go down that rabbit hole. Believe me, I could be the poster child for everything that happens in this process. This started for me back in 2008, and there wasn't as much information on all of this, so I kind of had to just go by the seat of my pants and work through everything as best as I could. And now being on the other side, I would just say to allow the process to happen without beating yourself up and without taking it so personally, because it's also my belief, and not just my belief, but that we did choose to be here at this time. It's like, we volunteered to be here at this time and to actually take this on and do this work. So it's a clearing of all the distortions. It's a waking up out of a programmed illusion. It's a freeing yourself from everything that has been weighing you down. It can be really tricky when this happens if you have a spontaneous Kundalini activation or you're in the dark night of the soul. We can have delusions of grandeur. We can do crazy things, especially when we're in a period of the process that we don't understand what's happening. So we're being impacted by the effects of this process, and we might do some things that we wouldn't normally do, and later on we're still going to be dealing, like decisions you might have made or things you might have done that later you look back and you might regret them, but you have to just forgive yourself and move on, because we did these things during a time when we just weren't aware of what was happening. And ultimately, I can tell you, it doesn't matter, because what you're doing by waking up is so much more important than any decisions or anything you might have done years ago. So completely let go of that, because you are going to find yourself in such a better place that it just won't matter. There's a responsibility that comes along with waking up, because you are now a beacon. You are now a messenger. You are now an example. You are now an example of you no longer live in fear, and you no longer just follow along. You use your own discernment. You use your own knowledge. Which brings me to how many of us get awakened to our abilities that we have to connect with our higher self or source or the oversoul. This is something I'm able to do, and to me it's like there's this huge field of information that we can tap into. It's the wisdom of the ages, past, present, and future. Everything is there. Everything is energy, right? So everything exists all at the same time. So that information is there. And it's like we grab the information. And I don't believe in predictions, in predicting the future based on the information, but it's pretty consistent across the board with everyone that these are really important times. And there is going to be, if you want to look at it as a choice point or a bifurcation, where you decide what reality or non-reality you want to be in. So do you want to move forward with your eyes open and be someone who, through all the chaos and everything that might happen or will happen, that you stay neutral, you stay grounded, you are again that beacon, that example that doesn't follow or go into the narrative of fear because you know the bigger picture. So for most of us, the switch has been flipped, and we're no longer interested in like the same TV programs or social media or mainstream news, maybe who we hang out with, who or what we want to interact with completely changes. And we might find ourselves in periods of isolation that either you choose or it might seem forced. But it's a part of the process that's necessary, because you're no longer this old self, right? So now you're getting to know your true self, and you just won't want the distractions around you of the old conversations or the old activities or whatever that might be. And I know it's easy for me to say, but you really just have to allow your process to happen in the way that it's meant to happen, and just trust that if you're in a period of isolation, trust that. If you're unable to work, and, trust that. Whatever your situation might be, you just kind of have to trust that it's what is supposed to be happening at the time it's happening, for how long it's happening. And if possible, to make the best of whatever part of the process you're in. Try to make the best of it. If you're in a lot of isolation, you don't have a lot of money, then maybe that's when you do a lot of reading or research, or you really start getting into the finer points or wanting to know more about everything that's happening. And believe me, there is stuff out there. There's so much more that, I just can't go into in this video, but I think a lot of you know what I'm referring to, that there's just so much more to this whole thing, to this whole illusion, this whole world, this whole everything. So it's really important, of course, that you have to use your discernment, and you have to really pay attention to what feels right to you. And, it's it's going to come at a time when you're ready to hear it. I think in one of my videos, I talked about cognitive dissonance. I can't remember if I did or not, actually, but, you might come on to something that you're just so taken aback by, and you just like put your hand up and walk away from it. And it could be that you're just not ready for that information yet. Or it could be that, your discernment is telling you, no, that's wrong. That's craziness. I mean, believe me, with everything out on social media and on YouTube, you really have to be careful to not get caught up on a stream of misinformation. But then again, that's a way we can learn, and we can find out what is the truth and what is just a story, or what is just someone just leading you down a garden path. I want to be sure and mention all the great things that come from this transformation as well. Connecting with Source and having that feeling of fullness and love, humility, neutrality, composure. And I also want to be sure and mention that, of course, this isn't the only way that people wake up, but it's the way I woke up, and that's how my channel began, is trying to reach people that were at the beginning of the process and they didn't know what was happening. So I wanted to be able to let them know that it's okay, it's a process. Yes, it can be hard, but it's definitely a transformation that's ultimately positive. And your material life can and will change for the better, although it doesn't have to. I mean, ultimately, that's not what it's about. It's more about the inner transformation and waking up. But it'll kind of naturally translate into your physical existence as well. So this is an amazing transformation that you have gone through, or you're going through, or you will go through. And it's not to be taken lightly. And I would never want to go back to before my transformation. But I'll be honest, there were times that I felt like, well, it'd be much easier to just be asleep. It was much easier before this all happened to me. But you definitely get through that feeling, and that it definitely passes. So wherever you are in the process, know that you will get through it with an expanded awareness that will open up by leaps and bounds, and what's on the other side will be unique to you. Keep an open mind, be respectful to the physical and the non-physical, and be a free spirit that honors the immensity of the times.